Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to take a look at the USE minis and how they unfolded yesterday, which was Thursday the 13th of August. Let's start by looking at the ES. For standard traders, we had a blue stroke black grey STF all day, so that means the large view trend was up. For standard traders, that means this TS1 buy setup here was a good one to take. At the first target, this would have been a nice 2.1R profit, which is a nice trade. You'd have been avoiding this sell setup here, and also you wouldn't have taken this DP sell at the high, so it would have been a nice trade. However, what I want to do in this video is show you how the more experienced users among you would have actually used the large view trend on the higher time frame chart. This is what I've been talking about a lot in recent webinars, to actually be able to uncover additional trades and enhance current trades. So to do this, we go to the higher time frame chart. It's a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So if you're trading a 3-minute chart, you'd go to the 15-minute chart. If you're trading, say, a 15-minute forex, you'd go to the hourly, or if you're trading daily stocks, for example, you'd go to the weekly. Now for this, you use previous swing highs and lows. Now the main one that I had on my chart yesterday was off this pivot here. The reason I had it off this pivot here was because this was the last swing into the low. Here you can see it was the last major low on the 12th of August. And in fact, I was looking at this particular DP in our training webinar for MTPredictor customers on Wednesday. So I right mouse click, place the DP on, and as you can see, it's up there. Now these are on the chart in advance. So on Wednesday, I was saying that basically this was the resistance area, had quite a way to go to get there, but that was an area where resistance was likely. So I drag it across. Can you see how that nailed the very high of the day for you, which was really quite nice. So what does that mean for you making trades on the 3-minute chart? Well, if I go down to the 3-minute chart, first and foremost, the large view trend is still up. It's still up because we hadn't reached this 15-minute DP when you were taking this long trade setup here. The only thing more experienced users could have done was, rather than coming out at the first profit, they may well have decided to go up into the higher time frame resistance to increase your profit on that particular long trade. You wouldn't have been taking the short trade here because you hadn't reached the DP resistance. However, because this DP sell on the 3-minute was at our 15-minute resistance, this would have been a good one to take. Now this is the beauty of these DPs, because they give areas of support and resistance in advance. You can catch turns in the market. So if we right mouse click over that red sell bar, place the DP on, you can see you would have had a nice little trade down into that DP support zone. In fact, that caught that right to the tick for a nice 2.7R profit as well. And that actually caught the very high of the day. I know lots of people say you can't take trades off the highs and lows of the day. Well, there we go. Yet again, we're seeing MTPredictor catching the very high of the day, not only with our automatic DP sell on the 3-minute chart itself, but also this 15-minute resistance zone that was on the chart there literally a day or so beforehand. So that was an area that you're anticipating resistance to come in, and as you can see, that nailed the high for you. So on the ES, some nice trades. On the NQ, we had something pretty similar. There's our 15-minute DP resistance area. Large view trend would have been up into that, so you'd have been avoiding these sell setups. You would then have come in. This DP sell at the higher time frame resistance would have been a good one to take, and that would have actually had a slightly larger profit than the ES, with a nice 3.1R profit off that as well, which would have been a very nice trade. The YM, again, catching the high of the day absolutely beautifully in that 15-minute DP. The YM wouldn't have been quite so great because we did have a sell. You can see, if I zoom in a bit, we did have a sell set up here. If I right mouse click, place the analysis on, again DP as well, and that would have been stopped out from -1R loss. Remember that not all trades are winners. Every single trader out there should know, understand and accept that we'll always be losing trades, but what we do in MTPredictor is keep our losses small. So when a losing trade like this comes through, it would have been kept small at just -1R. Compare that to the NQ trade of the profit being +3R, and you suddenly see how you can your account can keep on going up because the profits are much larger than the losses. Let's have a quick look at the Russell Index as well. Same kind of thing. Here's our 15-minute resistance. Again, that would have been on the chart in advance before the market even got there. There was our TS1 buy, very similar to our trade on the ES. If you'd played it up into the DP target, that would have made a nice 2.8 hour profit, which would be very nice. This TS1 sell here you would have avoided because you weren't at the 15-minute resistance, and the only short trade you'd have taken would have been this DP sell because it was at 15-minute resistance as well. We placed the analysis on down to the first target there for a 2.1 hour profit. However, there was also a nice trade here for very experienced users a bit later in the day, and that was around here. Because this was a major resistance, this would be the initial decline down, this would be the initial correction up into a wave 2, and if I do Elliott wave major, you can see it coming to a nice wave 2 there. After a wave 2, you're anticipating a wave 3 kind of swing, which is exactly what you got, and then the minor correction here into the wave 2, if I do Elliott wave intermediate, was a nice ABC correction, which is what you anticipate in a wave 2. So for the more experienced users among you, if I clear that all off, you could have very well had a manual trade down in, oops, I'll just do that again, risk reward, a manual trade down into here somewhere into the typical wave 3 WPT. If I put the majors on again, so just there, that's where it is, for a nice 5.9 hour profit as well. So that would be for the more experienced users among you, and that would require a bit of a manual analysis. But once you understand what the Holy Grail trade setup is, you could have been looking for those as well because of the 15-minute resistance earlier. But if you didn't catch that, well, you would have had some nice trades on the Russell Index anyway. But the main one I really want to look at was the ES, where you can see we had a nice TS1 long setup and a nice DP sell from the high of the day, and also very similar on the NQ, where we had another nice DP sell from the high of the day for a nice 3.1 hour profit. So very nice trades again there on the USE minis using MTPredictor, and all set up because of our 15-minute DP. Remember, these are on the chart in advance before the market gets there. What you do is you go to, if I go back to the ES, you go to the higher time frame chart. I'll just clear that off. You go back to prior swing pivots there to get an area of resistance that's on your chart in advance. As the market rallied up, you probably would have had another one from there as well, which was basically in the same area. You can see that was in the same area. Of course, now the way what you'd look at is because the market is starting to decline down, you'd do a DP off this pivot low here, and that would be the area you'd be looking for potential support. So you can see that it's on the chart in advance. So it's there ready and waiting. So I'm not saying that the market will go down to this level. All I'm saying is that if it gets down to this level, it's an area of potential support. When we come down to the shorter time frame charts, there's our DP resistance areas. So you can either trade in the trend on the shorter time frame charts in the direction of that large degree support and resistance, or take trades as the market's reversing at these levels. Just take that one off because it's confusing things a bit, as we saw here, which caught the very high of the day, and there you go, you can see there's your potential support zone ready if the market gets there. So hopefully that's been a good example of using MTPredictor on the USE minis yesterday, and also a good example of how we use multi-time frame analysis, or using our support and resistance on the higher time frame charts to help gauge our trades on the shorter time frame charts. And it's always very nice when we catch trades off the very off the high or low of the day. It's always nice to do that.